daddy says I'm his special little guy.
I am a princess.
And I am a prince.
Mum says I'm an angel sent down from the sky.
Hello, our theatre lovers, both out and proud and on the DL. Welcome to Broadway Breakdown, a podcast discussing the history and legacy of American theatre's most exclusive address, Broadway. This series is called The British Invasion, and it is covering shows that originated in the United Kingdom and then transferred across the pond to our Great White Way, some making a giant splash and some barely making a ripple. I am your host, Matt Koplik, the least famous and most opinionated of all the Broadway podcast hosts. With me today is, I think it's fair to say this is a man who does things. He has his own podcast, Little Me, Growing Up Broadway. You might have seen him during the pandemic filming himself baking with his husband, James, baking with Mark and James, or you are a student at the Broadway Workshop, which he has founded. I myself woke up on time for work today, and I considered that an achievement. So please welcome to the pod, Marc Tumminelli.
Oh my! Can you add in some applause just for my own joy?
You don't need applause. Those credits were your applause.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Your birdie Carvel was very good.
Thank you very much. I usually when I do my intros, even when I warn the guests, they still look at me like I'm absolutely insane and I'm the most talentless hack of all time.
No, I was impressed. I just finished watching the bootleg of Matilda in preparation for this afternoon, and I think you hit it right on the money.
Thank you very much, madam. I do wish that people could hear the full monologue Bertie Carvel goes into as Trunchbull in Act 2 that leads into Quiet. On the original London recording, they do record it at the tail end of the finale.
Yes, it's like a bonus.
Yes, and my goal is to memorize all of it and just recite it whenever I so choose.
Matt, I don't know you well, but I have faith that you can do that.
Thank you very much. We've known each other for less than 3 minutes, and Mark already believes in me more than some family members. Mark,
that is the key to my success, actually.
Well, we're talking about the right show then today. First of all, Mark, how are you on this Friday afternoon?
You know what? I'm pretty good. I just edited the next episode of Little Me Growing Up Broadway with Brooklyn Shuck, who starred on Broadway as Matilda. So that'll
she did.
So that's fun. I was just listening to her tell me Matilda stories. And I am just doing some Broadway workshop and Broadway events work. And I'm excited to get into the weekend.
Yes, Mark famously has a heart out for this episode and told me beforehand, he said, apparently you like to talk, so I need to make sure you know that you need to shut the fuck up at some point and let me do my job.
I definitely didn't drop the F-bomb. But...
He didn't drop the F-bomb. He did hold a picture of the last person who went on too long when he had a heart out and said that they haven't been found since. So, just as frightening. Also, I do want to say this before we go on. So we were recording this in September. I listened to your episode with Erica Henningsen today to prepare.
I'm texting with her as we are talking right now.
Well, fancy. I listened all the way through and I was so wonderfully thrilled when you were asking her questions because you do your,
quick fire questions.
Exactly. And you asked her if there was any show she could go back and see, what would it be? And she said The Carousel with Audra. Now, Mark, you don't know me, but all my listeners know this about me. If there is one thing that I think is the greatest thing to ever come to Broadway, it is the 1994 Carousel with Audra and Sally Murphy and Michael Hayden.
How old were you in 1994?
I was 4. I turned 4 2 days after the revival opened.
Oh, so I'm sure you loved it.
Well, I didn't see it live. I was given the cast recording as a kid. My grandmother worked for Lincoln Center at the time, so she had to see it all the time because all their big donors, every time she would have to entertain them, she's like, do you want to see American Ballet Theater? Do you want to go to the Philharmonic? Like, no, we really want to see Carousel. She's like, Jesus Christ. So she saw it like 15 times. But she got me the cast recording, I remember, and I was obsessed with it. I loved all the photos. My parents thought it was too dark of a show to take me at 4, but they thought at 5 I was just right to see Les Mis. And so I did not become obsessed with it until college when I refound it, and then I got to go see it at the Lincoln Center Library. All my friends who are in the bootleg world community got their hands on any bootleg that was available of it and sent it to me. I have since spliced them all together with the reviewer reels of that show and put it on YouTube. So anyone who wants to watch it's up there.
going to check that out. I'll tell
check it out.
Erica as well.
Please do. But yeah, she said that and I was like, first of all, it's not the carousel that Audra did. It's the carousel that Sally Murphy did.
All right. Listen, I'm a Wild Party fan.
Yes, please.
Can I come back for your Wild Party episode? Have you done one already?
Well, I did do a 2-parter comparing the two, which I tried to be very diplomatic. I was like, let's analyze these two and figure it out because I have my preferences. But we did a good job. No, I'll totally do them again. If it only just means to have you come on for a longer period of time than what we have today. God damn it.
Okay, let's talk about
talking
Matilda.
about shit that the listeners already know. But tell Erica Henningsen she's got amazing taste because that is the greatest production ever, but it is on YouTube. Anywho, speaking of British people, speaking of Lauren Ward, who is in the ensemble of Carousel, speaking of parents who don't believe in you, Mark, what dang show are we talking about today?
We're talking about Matilda the musical, RSC's huge smash London musical, lukewarm to Broadway transfer.
Yeah, I would say it was like slightly above lukewarm.
Yeah,
not red hot.
I would agree.
Yeah, not quite the red hot that it was there, but
and it continues to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that its reputation continues to grow. Mark, what is your history with this show, if you have any?
Yeah. Obviously, I'm someone who works with kids on Broadway. And so this Matilda coming in was going to be a big deal. So I tried to like really ingrain myself into the cast album, the London cast album. And I just really couldn't lock myself in ever. And then I saw maybe like the 3rd or 4th preview. And there was so much I liked about it. And I certainly was a very big champion of that show over Kinky Boots in that Tony season. It was definitely the show that I liked more than the other.
Mark,
and
are we becoming best friends?
We are
today?
becoming BFF. So there's a lot I liked about it. And so that was it. And then I had multiple students in the show. And so I went back to see it several times. And the same things I had issues with the first time continued to be issues for me the next times I saw it. But Annalise Carpaccio was in the show. And of course, Brooklyn was in the show. And who else did I have in the show? And it doesn't matter. We can go on and on. Ava DeMary. And yeah, lots of.
I don't know if anyone realized this when I introduced him, but Mark is famous and important and well-connected and knows everyone and has worked with everyone. So I would argue, everyone in Matilda, everyone in Phantom, everyone in Mean Girls, everyone in Hadestown owes their success to Mark. He doesn't have to say it. We're saying it for him.
That's very sweet. Thank you, Matt.
Facts are facts, America. So that is all well and good. I look forward to hearing your notes. I loved this show from the get-go, at least when I listened to the London cast recording first, because I remember when buzz was coming around from London. I don't know about you. Like, I always would read up on whatever reviews were coming from London, like Variety or the New York Times. They would go over and see whatever was hot there and be like, hey guys, this is actually good, or no, this is terrible. And the review Variety gave for Matilda when it was still at Stratford-upon-Avon, I was like, that sounds baller. And then I watched their Olivier performance. I was like, that looks really cool. And then I listened to the London cast recording, and unlike you, I super was into it.
Okay.
I felt head over heels and just could not wait for it. Saw it on Broadway 3 times. Not because I knew anyone in it, just because I did like it. And anytime a friend from out of town came in, they're like, do you want to see Matilda? And I was like, you don't have to twist my arm. Sure, I'll go see it again. I will say I did
plenty of seats available.
Yeah, well, not in that first year.
Not in the first year.
Yes, and we will talk about this in the legacy part of it, the aftermath. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, yeah, seats available. I do have some issues with the production of it that I did not have at the time. But rewatching it in preparation for this episode, I was like, oh, no, like there are things that I would change only because what I fell in love with on the cast recording from London was blown up a little bigger than I would have liked. But we'll go into this as we discuss the show. So now that everyone knows about our history with Matilda, how about I do a little history on the show? Not our history, but the history. If you know anything while I talk, feel free to butt in.
You got it.
Yeah, I do love to talk, but I also love conversations. So Matilda is a musical with a book by Dennis Kelly, score by Tim Minchin. It is based on the famous children's book by Roald Dahl, famous children's literary writer and noted anti-Semite, which is something we learn a lot with British authors. We learned that with
I'm
Dickens.
not getting involved in this. Keep going.
No, we learned it with Dickens. We learned it with T.S. Eliot. We learned it with Roald Dahl. You can note that and still find the works good. Lord knows the book Matilda is a masterpiece, and I'm able to say that. Dahl's idea was always to write a book about a child who had telekinesis. Basically, he was like, what if I wrote Carrie, but she's a child and she doesn't murder anyone? And it's like, great, book it. And his original intention was to make Matilda a naughty child, and he wanted her to die in the end. So I guess not totally unlike Carrie. And he showed some drafts to his editors, and they're like, so how about she doesn't die? And how about maybe she's a little more likable? And Roald Dahl's like, huh. So I think because at that point he'd written so many books where the child was so likable, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach. He's like, what if I wrote a book about a child that's just terrible? Wouldn't that be cool? And his editors are like, no, we want someone we can root for. So he sort of redoes the whole thing, and he decides to make her smart and earnest and likable. And rather than her being sort of a brat, it's more that she is challenging authority and a society that is bratty to her. So similar to a lot of his other books, it's the adults who are kind of brats and the children who are sort of wiser beyond their years. The book was published in 1988. Huge success, and Matilda became a role model for young readers everywhere. Dahl dies in 1990. The movie version comes out in like 96, 97, I think. Something like that, right?
I want to say 96.
Yeah. With one Morrow.
Look it up if you want.
Yeah. Please do while I continue. I just threw that date out of the back of my head. You would have thought that I would look it up and write it down, but I didn't because I didn't think it was that important. Starring Miss Mara Wilson. And that kind of
96.
Here we go. That's how my brain works, honey. I for some reason, those numbers just stay in there. I can't tell you the square root of 57, but I can tell you that movie came out in 1996.
I'm like, who can tell you the square root of 57?
I don't know. Just somebody.
Wrong podcast. Keep
I'll
going.
bet you Audra can, or her daughter can. Those two women know everything. Anyway, so that's to say nothing really ever else happened with Matilda after the movie. And then Tim Minchin, who up until this was mostly known as like a comedic singer-songwriter, very sort of like an Australian Bo Burnham, if that makes sense to American listeners. He did very sort of controversial lyrics and topics. He has a whole thing about the Pope, which uses the F word constantly. So, I'm saying F word instead of the other word because I have...
We're classy. It's a classy day.
I say I have a gentleman on my podcast today. I have a professional gentleman. So Tim Minchin came upon the book as an adult. I think he was reading it to his kid or maybe to a niece or nephew or something like that. And he was like, oh, this would make a really cool musical. So he was thinking about optioning it to produce it, contacts the Dahl estate. He's like, have you guys thought about making this a musical? And they're like, yeah, send us your score and we'll take a look at it. And he's like, I don't have a score. I just wanted to produce the thing. So he kind of like shut down. He was like, I'm not touching that. That was around 2007. Keep that in mind because a year later, he comes back. What ends up happening is the Royal Shakespeare Company, which we learned about during our Les Mis episode, was financially hurting in the early 2000s. They had mostly just been doing productions of their classics, Shakespeare, Ibsen, things like that. They hadn't done a musical since Carrie. And since that was such a bomb and really kind of tarnished their reputation for a while, they sort of stayed away from it and musicals in general and sort of stuck with what they knew. The problem was that their subscriber base was dwindling and their productions were not really catching fire anymore, and they needed money. For lack of a better term, they needed money. So they were like, let's start creating works again and let's do another musical. So Matilda came about because it was just going to be their Christmas show. This is a trend we see a lot with a lot of these British shows, especially at the National. Like, it was just going to be the Christmas show for kids, like War Horse or Coram Boy, and like it then blows up. And they're figuring out who they wanted to work on it, and they reached out to Dennis Kelly, who is a playwright mostly known for his controversial works. He has a whole play about Osama bin Laden that's like a dark comedy. He said, are you sure you want me to write this? Like, that was my last play. But like, this is exactly why you should write it. We don't want someone who writes for children's programs. We want someone who, so out of the box. So he starts to work on a draft. They get Matthew Warchus to direct it. Warchus brings on Peter Darling. Warchus is the one who actually ends up reaching out to Tim Minchin. He was looking through all of the sort of songwriting teams in theater on the West End. Probably Stiles and Drew were hit up at one point.
And some of this score sounds a lot like Stiles and Drew, if we want to be very honest.
I mean, Sure. I don't necessarily care for Styles and Drew, so I was going to say something a little nasty, but I won't. I hear what you're saying. I like the score more than what they do, but maybe that's intentional. Who's to say? But he wasn't finding the right writers. He wanted someone who could be earnest, but also have a lot of dry sarcasm about them. And he went to go see a Tim Minchin show, and Tim Minchin does his set, which is all, these curse words and controversial subjects. He's like, well, it's very funny, but I need someone who can also write a serious song. And the show ends, and then Tim Minchin comes out and sings a serious song, and Matthew Ward just basically goes backstage. He's like, so I'm doing Matilda and you're writing the score. And Minchin's like, I wanted to produce it, but then I got cold feet about writing a score. I've never written one before. And Ward just was like, well, get over yourself because you're going to write it. I'm almost just 100% certain those are the exact words. So you can quote me. That's verbatim what they said. They didn't even have accents. They said it in an American accent, and then they went back to their regular accents after they said what I just said. They workshopped the show for about a year. The production got announced for, I believe it was October of 2009 or 2010. See, this is where
November 2010 at Stratford.
There we go. November 2010 in Stratford. This is why. Thank you for having Wikipedia up, because I thought I wrote a lot of.
What if they
stuff
were just all in my head and I knew everything?
I wouldn't be surprised. I've listened to your podcast. You know things.
Well, that's really sweet.
And I am not very sweet.
I've got that.
I am not one to give compliments very freely. They do a workshop for about a year, and a couple things they decide on in the workshops are, they first were debating if they wanted Matilda to sing at all. They're like, what if she's, sort of like a manage share situation, everyone sort of sings around her, and they went, no, she should sing. So then her only song was going to be quiet, and they're like, no, she should sing more than that. She's like too passive. They also were playing around with if Matilda was going to be played by an adult or a kid, if the other kids were going to be played by adults or kids. They kind of were going around with that, which is something that happens a lot in British theater. They ultimately decided on Matilda and her companions would all be played by children, and that the quote unquote older kids would be played by adults, which we will talk about when we talk about the show itself. The other change they made was they were originally looking to write Trunchbull, the villain, for an actress, for a female identifying actress. And they were playing her up much more as like a campy villain. And Roald Dahl's widow, Felicity, said to them, remember, she's murdered people. Like, yeah, she's funny, but she's also a murderer. And they're like, right. She has to be capable of killing. So they sort of tweaked the character a bit. And they also were like, we couldn't find an actress who could sort of be other, like an other being. Like what they said was they didn't want Trunchbull to feel like a human being. They wanted it to feel like a monster with human tendencies. That was the only way that all of her monstrosity would ever be humorous to an audience. And also in British theater, there's a long history with pantomime of men playing female roles and women doing pants roles. Gender is much more fluid on the London stage than it's ever been on the Broadway, which we applaud. And so they go with one Bertie Carvel. I think it's actually Carvel, but I like saying Carvel. It reminds me of the ice cream. They do their previews in November of 2010 at Stratford-upon-Avon at the Courtyard Theatre, which is a nice big old thrust stage. They have 3 actresses rotating the role of Matilda for 2 reasons. 1, child labor laws, and 2, Matthew Ward was like, I don't want any of these girls to bear the brunt of having to carry an entire musical at the age of 9 or 10. And also I want them to not like have this be the only thing about their lives. So if each one of them
if any of those kids are like doing anything else, but keep going.
Well, I mean, if they're doing like 2 or 3 shows a week, they still have, 4 other days of the week to do things. That was sort of his idea. His thinking was like, I don't want this girl to be stuck in a theater 6 days a week. And it's like, I would like her to have at least 2 days a week of being a child. And also, oh no, did you hear that ding?
I did. Is that time? It's time for what? You need to come up with a game right now.
Oh God. Sorry, I'm just so popular. I mean, we don't have to go into too much. His thinking was also, I don't want this child to feel the pressure of having a whole show on their shoulders, which I understand. Not everyone can be an Andrea McCardle who can just sort of take it all in stride and be like, whatever, it's a Wednesday. Yes. Some kids have anxiety. The show is a really huge success. They move it about a year later in 2011 to the Cambridge Theatre on the West End, where it gets rave reviews. It wins a record-breaking 7 Olivier Awards, including Best Musical. The only other musical to get that number of Oliviers is Hamilton.
I know it. Oh, I thought this was going to be the test part.
No, there's no test. The questions are not a test, Mark. That's just at the end, and that's fun. Do you know what show actually has the most Oliviers?
I don't know if I do.
So Matilda and Hamilton are tied with 7, but that's for musical. It's a play that has 9.
Okay. Is it Mousetrap? Is it The Inheritance?
No. Mousetrap would make sense only in the idea of they're like, every year we give an award for longest running play, and every year it goes to the Mousetrap. We're happy to just be alive.
So what is the play?
It's Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Which when I saw the awards they won, I'm like, I mean, it makes sense. They won like
which is really 9 plays if you really want.
I mean, yeah, it takes up 9 days of your life when you really take into account.
A lot of play.
Obviously, Matilda was going to come to Broadway. Yes, that was always going to happen. And here's where we kind of get into a sticky situation, because the Royal Shakespeare Company said, remember when we did Les Mis? Remember how that show has made billions of dollars? We did not make billions of dollars from that because we were partnering with pompous douche Cameron McIntosh. And he negotiated a way that we got a sizable income, but not as much as we should have. And like, we won't have that happen again. Matilda is a really big hit. We can stand to make a lot of money from this. So we are going to find a producer that is not going to take the wheel on Broadway, but rather is going to let us do our own thing. And so they kind of, for lack of a better term, they messed around with a lot of Broadway producers while they were figuring out what house they wanted to go with, what producer they wanted to go with. So they were discussing with the Nederlanders, but they also were discussing with the Weislers, and just everyone thought that they had it in the bag. And then they kind of came out of nowhere saying that they were going to produce it with the Dodgers, and everyone was really upset because they're like, we wined and dined you. You basically said that it was us. And like everyone kind of went like, oh wait, they said that to you? They said that to you? They said everyone was like, oh, we got played. It was it's the equivalent of texting someone on Tinder and saying that you are really excited to meet them and say, yeah, I can't wait. You seem really great. Only to find out they're texting 7 other people saying the exact same thing. And you never get that date. So your mind gets really messed up and we don't like it, which is why Broadway was mad when Matilda came to Broadway. No one was happy. They do decide to go with the Shubert Theater. It's a pretty smooth process, though, in terms of rehearsals, in terms of previews. The biggest complaint in previews I remember were people saying they couldn't understand the show. The sound design was notoriously terrible, and the kids were having issues with the accents, and so a lot of lyrics were misunderstood or just not understood at all during previews. And then on top of that, they didn't want to Americanize the show. They wanted to keep it in its British roots, and they did not really hold firm to that after a while. They started to let go of some stuff.
Escapologist became escape artist in year 3, I think.
Yes, it did. And other words started to creep in as well. There were some new orchestrations. There was a show curtain. They added an overture pretty early into the run that wasn't there, which makes me not mad. It frustrates me because I liked how it always opened with that school bell. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was so British and weird, and then they added this like big menacing overture. I'm like, that's not what I like, but we'll go into that in just a second. The point is, Mark, since you asked, is that
I definitely did ask.
You did ask. They do open at the Shubert Theater on April 11th, and the only 2 members of the British company to come over are Bertie Carvel as Trunchbull and Miss Lauren Ward as Miss Honey.
I'm a very big Lauren Ward fan. You're not going to get any negativity about her performance from me.
Oh, absolutely not. I have a Lauren Ward story that I already told on the podcast when I had Natasha Diaz on. So take a second, everyone, as I do a transition music and tell Mark this very, very quick story that you all have heard.
All I know I learned from telly, this big beautiful box of facts. If you know a thing already, baby, you can switch the channel over just like that. Endless joy and endless laughter, folks living happily ever after. All you need to make you wise is 23 minutes plus advertisements. Why would we?
So that's me in a nutshell.
Got it. So we love Lauren Ward. Back to business.
Yes, we came out of it. The show opens on April 11th. And what happens after April 11th, we'll get into. Mark, what's Matilda about?
Matilda is about a girl who is severely mistreated by her family, who has a very wild imagination and some magical powers. And through her determination, she is able to defeat the evil teacher. What is Trunchbull? The
Headmistress.
Headmistress of the school, and get kids to swing on a swing and do a cartwheel on a raked stage and have last bow. That's really what Matilda's about.
Yeah, she's got telekinesis. She's very, very, very smart.
It's the prequel to Carrie.
Yeah, it's Carrie if Carrie was taken away from her mom at a young enough age.
No, but who's to say that Miss Honey and Matilda don't become Carrie and Margaret White?
Oh my God. That is such a take. What if at the end of the show, instead of them doing a cartwheel, Lauren Ward slowly brought out a giant crucifix?
I was going to say a Bible. Yeah, a Bible.
Crucifix. Mm-hmm.
And she just starts to look at her and things get a little red and we close the door into the basement or some shit.
Yeah, she was like, Matilda never needed to use her powers again. Crucifix and Bible. And everyone in the audience goes, we know differently. And
then we come back the next night for Carrie.
Yeah, just like Harry Potter or The Inheritance. It's a two-parter.
Got it. I'm into it.
Yeah, me too.
So this is why I'm not the artistic director. Oh, I am the artistic director of my own theater, but this is why no one will hire me to be the artistic director of a different theater.
Well, maybe if you do your Carrie Matilda double bill, someone will. They'll go, you know what? We didn't think that was going to work, and yet it did.
There we go. I always thought it would work.
They laughed at Sondheim for writing a musical about meat pies. They laughed at Trevor Nunn for directing a musical about Les Miserables. And who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now? So do it and make them all stop laughing. What is your favorite song in this show, Mark, if you have one?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think When I Grow Up is like a perfect musical theater song.
Mm-hmm.
And it honestly like makes me feel something when I hear it. And then I think My House is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Naughty is a pretty great song. So there are about three things that really kind of stick out for me.
What is it about My House that you like? Because I have my thing, but I want to hear your thing.
I just think it's like a really simple song in an evening of the most complicated music you have ever heard. And the three things I just called out are very sort of surfacely beautiful musical theater songs. Mm-hmm. And I may be putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but like there's so much of this music sounds like it's fighting with each other. It is so overly dense and complicated that it is very hard to connect to it. It's very hard to let it wash over you. Like it feels like math problem, which is right for the show, which makes sense. So to me, it's like to have these sweet moments of kind of simple musical theater songs. My House is like such a breath where you can like just listen to someone be beautiful and sing a gorgeous song that has a very clear beginning, middle, and an end. And then it's like Even Quiet, which is Matilda's 11 o'clock number. It's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a tornado, which is okay because that's the feeling. That's why I don't dislike this show. It's just so heady for me that it's like hard to get in the middle.
I totally hear you. I also say with My House, what I really like about My House, and you probably know this as a teacher, someone who has to, help students with musical theater songs. It is much more interesting in a scene for someone to not address the issue in a scene like that. That's more interesting scene work to me anyway, than to have there be a problem and have the song sort of being about trying to not address the problem and talk about something else. That is sort of conflict. So My House, the conflict is Miss Honey. Spoiler alert, everybody. Miss Honey lives in a cottage, and it's because Miss Trunchbull is her aunt and murdered her father when she was a kid, and basically she ran away, and she has no money. That's the conflict. And Matilda's reminding her, your aunt drove you out of your house. Your aunt has your money. Your aunt killed your father. And Miss Honey doesn't want to talk about that. She just wants to talk about the things in her home that make her happy, that are enough for her. And the truth underneath that is that it's not really enough for her. Or at least if it's enough for her, it's not going to be enough for her forever. But
she's conditioned herself to say, these are the things that make me happy, and I'm okay.
It is. She keeps
as a defense mechanism.
Yes, defense mechanism. She keeps repeating, it's not. It isn't much, but it is enough for me. For this is my house, and that is a wonderful thing to act. And unfortunately, that's not something that's in a lot of modern musical theater. a lot of modern musical theater is word vomit, word vomit, word vomit, or it's just like the most broad stroke, put it up on a billboard so everyone understands the emotions I am feeling. Or on the other end of things, it can be the most vague wording of broad emotions so that it can touch everyone. It's like the Bella in Twilight effect, where Bella in Twilight is written so basically and vaguely that any girl all over the world.
I can't help you here with this Twilight.
Well, you don't have to help me. I'm explaining to you my reference here, Mark. She is written so vaguely that basically any girl anywhere reading can think that she's Bella. And a lot of musical theater songs do the same thing, where it's like, let me write sort of what I call empty poetry, where anyone can relate because it's not about anything specific. So My House is both very specific, but it's also not addressing the issue head on. It is trying to, as you said, be a musical defense mechanism about an issue that is prominent but not being dealt with. And that is really good acting material.
It isn't much, but it is enough for me. This is my house. This is my house. It isn't much, but it is enough. And when it's cold and bleak, I feel no fear.
all of Miss Honey's stuff is so great. That like knock on the door section. It's just like you
Pathetic.
you really kind of go. Is that what that song's called?
It's called Pathetic, yeah.
You sort of really. I feel like you lock into her more than Matilda, which is a little bit of a problem for me in the musical. But
I think Matilda is interesting because the character of Matilda, and this is something that you sort of see in the book as well. The movie with Mara Wilson, and the movie is also very American, which you don't realize unless you've read the book as well, how much the movie kind of caters the story to American audiences. They play up the sort of quirkiness of her powers, and they make that much more of a prominent storytelling device, whereas in the book and in the musical, Matilda having telekinesis isn't that she's magical, it's that she's so intelligent and her brain has so much power and it's not being properly put to use, so all that excess energy has sort of
has to go somewhere.
Yes, it has shot out of her eyeballs and allowed things to move, which is not necessarily science, but that's in the world of doll, it makes sense in the world of doll. In the same world where Trunchbull can throw a girl by her pigtails over a fence and the girl does not get injured one bit, like that kind of thing. When he talks about Trunchbull dropping kids and they bounce, I'm like, children don't bounce, doll, just in case anyone was wondering. But no, I absolutely...
It's a fantasy world in which has been perfectly created. I mean, when you think about Charlie and Chocolate Factory and you think about this, there's so many similarities to the way the children are written, and that it does feel like it's the other side of the looking glass. It really is like a Lewis Carroll version of childhood, which is quite fascinating in so many ways.
Well, because everything is sort of...
Am I blowing your mind right now?
Honestly, doesn't take much these days. You are very truthful about all of that. Doll's worlds are interesting because, as I said before, you have a lot of adult characters that are the villains, and they're villains in the sense that they are truly menacing and they are capable of harm. But there's also something relatively stupid about the villains as well. So while they are ruthless, they are not as intelligent as the protagonist, which is why I think it sort of feels like the playing field is even, especially because our protagonist tends to be a child, and no matter how clever they might be, they are smaller in stature, both physically and in society, which Dahl talks about with Matilda when he talks about all of Matilda's revenge plots against her parents. He says, like, listen, Matilda is insanely bright, but she's also 5. So there's a lot she can't really do to get back at her dad. She has to be very clever. And which is why she does the peroxide and she glues his hat to his head, and in the show and the book, they have the same thought, which is to justify, like, sometimes you have to be a little naughty. You can't be good all the time if you're going to teach someone a lesson, which is very accurate. You can be classy all you want. Some people don't get the message unless you get your hands dirty just a little bit.
'Cause if you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you.
Not that I'm condoning violence or people gluing hats to other people's heads. I'm just saying.
I think if your
sometimes.
parent is that horrible to you, then maybe.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if your parents that horrible to you, dye their hair without their knowledge. That's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Had you ever read the book?
I don't think I have. Maybe I did when I was younger. I don't have a real recollection of it, and I never saw that Mara Wilson movie.
But you're aware of the Mara Wilson movie, right?
Of course, I was an alive person, and it was a big movie. But I was 16 when that movie came out, so I was like not gonna watch a kids movie then, and yeah. So I think I just sort of maybe missed the whole Matilda. I don't think it was a craze, but I certainly did not get on board.
Contrary to popular belief, Mark was an alive person in 1990.
I was a live person, but I was like very busy like researching Eva Perón.
That is a rite of passage for any gay teenager.
I would say so.
Yep. Once
I'm
you
like,
hit
what
15,
is this?
you hit 15 and you go, who's this woman? Well,
Yeah.
also, I would.
How do I get a bootleg of Smile? Like these were the things I was worrying about.
Mark, truly, you're saying all the right things to me right now. My listeners are
really.
to the point where I'm like, have you actually listened to this podcast?
I did. I listened to your Evita episode because I'm a big fan of Jonathan Hoover. I think he's so
Jonathan's
talented.
lovely.
Yeah.
I assume you didn't listen to the entire episode because she's long.
No,
but...
I listened to the first half hour. I got a sense.
Okay, great. I don't think I mentioned Smile in the first half hour, but I mentioned Smile almost every episode. I mentioned Smile, I mentioned Carousel, I mentioned Sex and the City, to the point that I mentioned Stage Door Manor, to the point that my listeners are like, Jesus, take a shot every time he says any of these things. But I adore Smile. I have said before, Encores needs to do it. It needs to be the Samuel French version, though, because that script is legitimately strong, whereas on Broadway it's not terrible, but you watch it, you're like, oh, I see why this didn't click on Broadway. They were trying to take a medium-sized dark comedy and make it a big splashy all-American musical. Not that, but I mean, Jodie Benson and Lycra, we stand a legend.
I know a lot about Smile the musical,
as do I. That'll be another episode. In fact, maybe I'll bring you back for the next series, which I'm not telling people what it is yet because I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be this, but I think it is. I'll decide when I record the final episode, which is in 2 weeks. Anywho, this has nothing to do with anything. Evita. So the Evita movie came out, I think, the year before Matilda, right? 95.
15.
Yeah. Were you aware of Evita before the movie came out?
Yes,
Okay.
very. Let me look at Evita movie. I mean, I went to the AMC in 72nd Street, like, I mean, 66, whatever that is, and saw it on the big 96. Yeah, 96. I was 16, the same year.
Mm-hmm. Well, so,
it was on IMAX, and I got a postcard to invite me to see Evita on the IMAX screen, and I went with my friend Amanda. We went into Manhattan and saw Evita, and I loved it.
I mean, she's a big splashy musicale. He supports you for he loves you, understands you, is
and
one
I
of
also
you.
was like the biggest Madonna fan there could be at that point. So it was like, and then I did my senior project the next year on Evita on the film. And I had to show most of the film to my drama class. I borrowed it from Blockbuster Video, and I had to keep extending it because the movie's so long. Anyway, no one really...
The movie's longer than the show is.
Yes. Nobody really had the same sort of enthusiasm for the Evita film as I did in my high school.
Well, thank you. I'd never heard of a George Glass at our school, but that is to say, I don't think Madonna would have been a very good Matilda. I'm trying to bring it back.
She'd be a good Mrs. Wormwood. I'd see that.
She would. I don't know if she'd be able to sort of make fun of herself enough to do that. The only time I've ever seen her kind of be silly was on that one episode of Will and Grace, which is still my favorite.
Hold the phone. This is Time Out. You've never seen Who's That Girl?
No, I haven't seen Who's That Girl.
Okay, you have to watch. It's the greatest Madonna movie of all time. She
In
is
what
like
way?
Billie Holiday, like she is. It is just like the wildest character. Like she's a dumb blonde. Like it's genius. It's a great movie.
If you say so. I mean, I really like the idea of Rose. I think it's Rosanna Arquette. Is that the one who's in Desperately Seeking Susan with her?
Yes.
Rosanna Arquette, I think, would be, well, she might be too old now, but she would have been a great Mrs. Wormwood. She has sort of that like chose looks, you chose books kind of attitude that she can just sort of go for broke on screen. Rita Perlman did the movie and she's very good at it. The movie, they do the whole running joke of her parents never know her true age, whereas in the musical, they keep on
her gender.
Yeah, they keep saying she's a boy and she's a girl. But that's also because the dad wanted a boy, and he just basically threw willpower and hoping to gaslight everyone that he can just convince everyone that he has a second son. What is your least favorite song in this show?
Oh, sure. I guess I would say it is, I'm looking at this song list, and it's definitely that gym sequence. The Smell of Rebellion? I'm like, this is terrible.
Interesting.
Yes.
I like Smell of Rebellion. I don't like how it's done on stage because, again, I listened to it with Bertie Carvel in the London cast recording, and he's just so deadpan. I call him sort of like the driest British piranha in that recording. And I want people who know Matilda, if you haven't listened to the London cast recording, I recommend it over the Broadway one. The Broadway one obviously has all the changes to the score that are now there. The London cast recording has extra verses, whatnot, but Bertie is a little more kind of fidgety on the Broadway cast recording, I guess is the word I would use. He does a couple more like ticks and bits, and he's just a little more simple on the London one, which in my opinion makes him funnier. And there's something just so bonkers about it, especially because these
songs are fun to watch. I don't want to cut you off, but the songs are fun to watch.
Oh, see, that's the thing. I didn't find Smell of Rebellion fun to watch on stage. I liked listening to it. So you and I are polar opposites. Except for our Smile of Love. We're enemies.
I would never want to listen to most of these songs, but the visual, when I was rewatching it this afternoon, I was like, oh, this was fun. I remember this being funny. And the stage, like the kids hitting each other to jump over the thing. It's just like not, again, it's like noise to me. It's not like this interesting musical number, even like Miracle is like, it's like sounds like someone's having a seizure.
And see, that's the thing though, is I prefer listening to the London. It all goes back to the London one. I just prefer listening to the London version of Miracle. The orchestrations are smaller. The kids are more understood. They're not shouting. And it's just a little, it's again,
trying to say about American Children. What is your least favorite song in the show?
Well, what am I trying to say about American Children? No, I liked it on Broadway all 3 times I saw it. And the second time I saw it, Millie Shapiro was Matilda. And that is like top 3 of my favorite child performances I've ever seen. Up there with the bootleg of Ruthless with Catherine Zaremba, which is something
that great?
Oh yeah, that's part of what got Mark to say yes to this podcast. Was I said I love Catherine Zaremba and Ruthless. He's like, well, you can't be terrible people.
No,
then.
Yeah, there are so few people who even know what we're talking about right now.
My mummy says I'm a miracle, one that can best, and it's plain to see. Ever since the day Doc chops the umbilical cord, it's been clear there's no fear for a miracle like me.
My mummy says I'm the precious Barreline. She has never seen pretty Barreline. She says if I'm keen, I have to cut down on the cream. But I'm a Barreline, so give me more cake.
Take another picture of her.
Again, there's something about just letting the audience kind of come in the same way that I talked about in the Cats episode. Where like, whether you like Cats or not, the reason why it works for a lot of people is because Trevor Nunn sort of directed everyone on stage to be like, we're doing our thing, and like, if you want to watch, you can, but like, I don't know, like, only if you want to. But we're gonna do our thing. It's that British mentality of like, we're not inviting you, but you can stay. And there's something about that attitude on the London cast recording that I liked and thought worked really well in the world of Doll. The way that the boy sings and then says in Miracle, it goes, one day when I'm older, I can be a soldier and shoot you in the face. It's just so quiet and smug that I think it's so great. Whereas on stage, he goes, and shoot you in the face. And it gets a laugh, but I'm like, I think it's funnier to see like a smug little 5-year-old say the most psychotic thing. Like he
and
just
that's hard to do in a 1,400 seat theater.
Exactly,
but
which is why I'm weirdly
cool
looking
in an alternate space or in a thrust.
I'm not. It's an unfair comparison. I understand that very much so, because the mediums are different at cast recording and on stage. But it's why I gravitated so hard to the recording. And then while I still very much liked it on stage, as I said again, as I got reassociated with the show for this episode and watched not just that one Broadway bootleg, I watched a couple of other videos. I did not send you all the things that I came upon.
Okay.
I was restrained, and I told you that you didn't have to watch everything. I was like, I'm giving you options.
I
These
know.
are
I
all
didn't want
options.
to. I didn't want to come on here and not be able to talk about like
Sure.
a show I saw for the last time in the last maybe like 6 months of its run on Broadway. Like I don't remember what I did last week, but this was many years ago.
Yeah,
The
but
kids that I went to see in the show are out of college.
I thought about that. I
Sure.
had Emma Howard on. So I used to do a web series. Speaking of you baking, I used to do a web series called Baking It on Broadway, and I had Emma Howard on for Matilda, and that girl is now in college in London. I think she's about to graduate, and I'm like, how the time flies. She was in middle school when
Well, little Ava DeMary, who was in the show, played Charity, My Sweet Charity, her senior year of high school. And then now she's going to her senior year at Pace. So, I mean, it's just like it all happens very quickly.
Has the workshop done Smile with these kids?
You know what? We haven't. I was brought in to write a school version of Smile many years ago, which was my big dream I wanted to do. Is sort of cut the show down to 90 minutes, change the ending, like move some things around. And I had gotten the green light to do it, and then some things went a little south, and Marvin died, and it's just, and so it never happened. But it's it's on my list of things I'd like to accomplish at some point.
Would you still do your 90-minute version, or would you just do the show?
No, I would do. I'm not interested in producing it unless I can do a rewrite. So
Got
I don't know
it.
if you know at Broadway Workshop, I take a lot of shows. They give it to me and I try to come up with what the 90-minute high school or school version might be. And then they let me do a few passes at it. And I try to, sometimes I rewrite the show fully. Sometimes I just do little edits. We've done Spamalot, All Shook Up, We Will Rock You, That Wind in the Willows, that we were talking about those composers earlier. Head Over Heels was the last one of those I did. So just lots of shows that I've put my little hands in and reworked.
Yeah. I did not know that you guys did 90-minute versions because despite what you think right here, right now, Mark, I am not a youthful high schooler. I know I have the skin of a youthful high school kid, but I am not. So I was unfortunately not able to partake in any of your shows while you were doing them. I'm simply too old.
You're only 31, right?
How dare you? Yes, I am. How dare you speak my age so exactly and with such conviction?
It's
will
fine.
punch you.
Probably, you probably just missed the Broadway Workshop experience.
Because you started what, 06, 07?
Well, January 08 was our first class with Laura
Okay.
Belmonte.
Yeah, no, I missed it because I was
missed it.
knee deep in college applications at the time. And the one thing I did that was like after school theater related, I had been doing it for 5 years. So there's no way I was backing out of it for that last semester.
Were you at kids theater? What were you doing?
No, isn't kids theater in LA?
No, they're here.
Oh, they did Smile.
They've done it twice, I think.
Because Michaela Diamond was Doria.
That's my girl.
It's
Michaela
all on
Diamond.
YouTube. You think I haven't seen that shine that they do? That's a good shine. No, I was with Applause.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I had a fine enough time, but not great. But we're not talking about Applause. We're not even talking about kids. We're not talking about your work. We're talking about Matilda. I don't even know where we're at anymore.
Back to Matilda. We were doing best song, least favorite.
Yes.
Most favorite.
I think my least favorite song is actually Telly. I don't like Telly very much.
Well, it's only there so you can come back late from the bathrooms.
That's true. And this all will be brought back in our speed round questions. Speed.
We call them quick fire questions on the Little Me podcast.
Quick fire. That is the word I'm trying to use. But I never can think of it. I was like Speed Racer, Racing Demon.
I'll call it a Speed Racer on my next episode.
Speed Racer questions. What? Okay. If you were to do an edit of Matilda, which I'm assuming
they've done it.
They've done it.
MTI has done it. There is a
Well, they have their juniors versions.
There's
and
a
whatnot.
junior version of Matilda.
But we're not even just talking like trims here and there because you were talking, sometimes restructuring of things.
Yeah.
Knowing that Matilda has to be a child and you can't really put too much on her for the fear of maybe like it all collapsing on her shoulders.
Who said that?
I did. I said it. Well, how would you restructure the show then, or sort of revamp the show to make her feel much more of like the pulse of it?
I do. I think that it's too late for this because the show is created, but the opening number doesn't set her up for success. So like their Miracle's very cool, but it is, and we're getting a lot of information and the pregnancy and the doctor and then this song, and we have spent 12 minutes or whatever, and we don't know who the story who we're following here. And so like I wish there was some way to kind of get Matilda more involved in from this first. I want her to be the first voice we hear, and I don't know how to fix that with what is here, but I almost wish like that opening number would give us her life, and then we get to Naughty. I would have done a big rewrite of that opening number if I had the option. And then it's just like it's cutting away fat. So when things are like Loud goes on forever, and it's like this is not about anything. It's just a musical number. Like it does feel like there are so many moments of this show that are there to be spectacular. What is it? What's the song? Well, the hammer to me is like.
If you want to throw the hammer.
I'm like, it pulls you away because it's not a great song, right?
I mean, in the same way that, a lot of Golden Age stuff, you have songs that were kind of written to be platforms for a good performer. That's kind of what Hammer is. It's an excuse for Bertie Carvel to just be weird.
Be wild and weird.
And I do like, again, and this all just comes down to personal taste. Like Hammer makes me laugh, but also like, again, when I watch the stage version, it doesn't do it for me as much as when I hear it. And maybe that's because in my head, I have a very particular viewpoint for it. And I'm actually very interested to see, and we'll talk about this in a second. The movie version that they're making, I'm very interested to see how they go about it, because I think it's going to be a little less over the top and wild. I think it is going to be a little drier. I think they'll visually be able to incorporate some things that you're talking about into songs. Like I think Miracle might kind of be both an establishment of all these children who are, brats and their parents think they're miracles, while also kind of cross-cutting with the first 5 years of Matilda's life, which the movie does cover.
There's just so many things happening. Her telling the story, which is Miss Honey's story, obviously, that she somehow knows or has created. And then that story happening while, it's just, it's wildly dense for a young person show. And I have not spent much time with the junior version, and I don't know what made it out and what stayed in. I imagine School Song is cut. I imagine Hammer is cut, but I'll go look. But there's just too many things at play where it's like, who is this show for? Because it's not really for kids.
It's for me. The show's for me.
It's not really for kids. It's also not for like two adults on a date night. So like, I like to look at shows of like, well, what is the intended audience for this? And I think it's unclear.
That's fair. I mean, so my thing with Miracle that I like, especially, and to be fair, like if you don't know the book well, you don't necessarily know where this song got inspired from. And it gets inspired from the first 10 pages of the book, which is just like one of the first things Roald Dahl says is, as a teacher, I come across so many parents that are convinced that their child is the one who holds up the sun. He goes, 99% of the time, this child is a dud. And and ironically, the more of a dud this kid is, the more the parent is convinced that they're the next Einstein or Madame Curie. And he goes, and so it's ironic that there is a child, Matilda, who is truly remarkable, and unfortunately is birthed by two parents who are too dense to recognize it. And in fact, their morals, their values are so polar opposite of Matilda's abilities that they, X, Y, and Z. I hear what you're saying on a traditional level. I think that it makes sense to sort of open with Matilda and get more of her background so we can go up with her. For me in my life and my journey and my story on this road and what we call Matt Koplik, I do really enjoy that for the first, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, it is, the origin of how she was born and the home of which she was born into, the parents that she was given, as well as seeing all these kids going on about how amazing their parents think they are. And then Matilda gets the last word in the number, which is her singing, "My parents say I'm a naughty little worm. My mother says I'm a good case for population control." And it's sort of one of those things for me that it doesn't often work, and it doesn't work for everyone for everything. But sometimes when you set something up in a weird long game and then come back to it, it works really well. I talked about this with Noises Off. Like Noises Off, you go through Act 1 where they set up how the play within the play is supposed to work. So when Act 2 and 3 happen, you know what's supposed to happen. So it's very humorous, but you have to, in order to get there, you have to have the first hour, which is not for everyone. On the other end of the spectrum, having just done this episode recently, you have something like Blood Brothers, which takes the longest time to get to the damn kids. And then they're like, see all these things we set up? And I'm like, but it doesn't work, Willie.
I love Blood Brothers.
Okay, Mark. So everyone on this podcast has officially disregarded everything you just said, because this is the gentleman who thinks the Marilyn Monroe metaphor works brilliantly.
Oh, I don't think it works brilliantly at all.
That's what you just said, and you can't take that away from me. You said it exactly.
I just have a very soft spot for that musical. Yeah, it was, I love
I don't
that
hate Blood Brothers. I think.
Have you seen it in
Yes,
London?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't hate it.
I don't know why it shook me to the core. Something about a mother and a son, which I think is just what it is.
Yeah. Well, we all have, I don't want to say we all have our weaknesses that will hit us no matter what the situation is, right? So like for me, and it's not even necessarily in shows, it's more in movies, but whenever a parent recognizes that their weird kid is weird and like embraces it, it doesn't matter if I think the movie's good or bad. Full on sobs.
You just love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I cry every time in like a movie when Will Ferrell hugs his child. It doesn't matter. I just will. For something like Matilda, I don't ever cry. I think I've only cried like 3 times in the theater. Blood Brothers doesn't make me cry. I will say Blood Brothers, I'm always surprised at how funny it is, mostly intentionally.
If you want to throw the hammer for your country, you have to stay inside the circle all the time. And if you want to make the team, you don't need happiness or self-esteem. You just need to keep your feet inside the line. Sing, children. 2, 3, 4.
I do think there's something about a show where a kid is the lead, having them start the show does something. When you look at the history of the musical theater where children are the stars of show, the first voice you hear in Annie really is Annie.
Yeah.
The first, that curtain comes up on Oliver and he's sitting right there. And then, Mary Lennox is the first, she's like, we go through these stories through the eye of the kid, and I think it becomes important to see them immediately, whatever that means. If that means it's more of a staging thing than a musical thing.
I think you could do some staging with Matilda and without adding dialogue. It maybe wouldn't make it 100% successful for you, but I think
I'd love to take a pass at directing it. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah. No, I think some good staging. And I don't know you very well, but you seem to be very good at what you do, despite your love of Blood Brothers and the fact that you think Matilda should go jump in the river.
I don't think that. I don't do that.
I know, Mark. I'm sorry.
I know. I just want to be very clear that I don't think. I also think it was like a masterclass in directing and stagecraft and design, like that. I feel like it hit on all those levels. May I just say that?
I keep forgetting Mark is a professional in this industry, and I can't drag his name through the mud and make him associated with terrible things.
I'll talk about Amazing Grace all day long. The worst thing I've ever seen on Broadway. He left. Guys, did anyone see Amazing Grace on Broadway?
I did.
It was so bad. I've never seen anything that bad. That's the worst thing I've ever seen.
It's definitely up there for me.
I don't have one positive thing to say about it.
Well sung. It was well sung.
Was it?
Yeah, they had good voices. I just remember at the time, we're going so off topic this episode, but you know what? I really love it. At the time, so many people were saying, and this does tie in a lot of ways, because I will say a lot of modern musical theater fans mistake a good show for a good message. Does that make sense? They're like, well, what it's trying to say is so important. And it's like, but do they do it well? So when Amazing Grace came out, a lot of its quote unquote supporters were like, well, you can't deny that the message is important. I'm like, the message is that slavery is bad. Of course that's important, but like the show is fucking garbage. And I'll say that because it had so many people in it who I think are so talented, who I've seen be amazing in other things. And it was sad to see them in a show that I thought was wasting them. But that's sort of the life of an artiste. You're not always going to have the benefit of being in something you like or believe in every time, or something that's going to bring you to the best of your abilities every time. You can be something that's amazing, where you're kind of underused because the overall purpose of the story is not, reliant on you showing off the entire time, which is fine. It happens. I wouldn't necessarily say Company utilized Donna McKechnie to the best of her abilities, but it doesn't matter because Company is Company.
That was also a very long time ago.
Was it, or was it yesterday?
Don McKechnie and Company was a long time ago.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Of course you do.
I talk about it like
You talk about the TikTok dance every day.
Stop popping.
Okay,
the
back
head,
to
Captain.
Matilda.
Why back to Matilda? I'm enjoying all of our other talks. You're so much more passionate about everything else.
I told you that when you asked me to.
I know,
thought
but
you were
that's why
emailing me to can you get me a kid who's in Matilda to do this episode? And I was like, oh, let me help this kid out. I was like, oh, you want me to do it? I don't know.
I was never going to ask you to bring a kid in to talk about Matilda. I specifically asked for you. I knew what I was doing. There's a method to my madness. And Marc Tumminelli, I've been enjoying this episode thoroughly. I like the conversations we're having. It's not getting super nerdy in depth, and that's fine. We're talking about a lot of grander things, and I enjoy that thoroughly.
Great.
Staging wise, because you brought this up, and I do want to talk about this. The staging of Matilda, you said it's a masterclass in creativity and whatnot.
Yes.
Is there something that you do remember, like in a detail that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I remember so clearly those desks coming out from the floor, and I thought that was so smart. I just sort of the overall movement. I'm very attracted to how transitions move in musicals, and I just thought all of that was so effortlessly beautiful. The way the use of the escapologist and the way that always looked, the all the shadow puppets that were obviously projections, but just the style of that. I just thought overall the style, the costumes, the hair, I mean, just everything's firing at 100% as far as the creativity is concerned. The look of everything, it was it had a Wicked feel, but not quite. And it also was up to so much interpretation. I could look at this version and see it without it. I could see it, I could see a regional theater just having a big chalkboard and that's it. And there's just projections on it. I could see the show working with so many things. And I think a lot of times in musicals, especially in original cast musical, you kind of only see it that way for a long time. And I think because the design was so smart, I could see it in other ways, which doesn't normally happen. So I just was very impressed with the overall design from every single department of that show.
It was a very creative design. So this actually kind of goes into something else that I wanted to bring up with Matilda, because while the design and the staging I thought were so creative and so inventive and brilliant on its own level, part of me wondered, so one of the major themes of Matilda, right, is how part of human integrity is to sort of always be challenging yourself and to always try to do better and to improve yourself and to read and to gain more knowledge and not try to be garish and show off and just shouting into a void and sort of accepting, not accepting dumbness, but accepting vegetation a lot and sort of allowing yourself to be placated to. I don't know words anymore. For a show that's all about words, that's literally about, and a set design that was literally about words and deconstructions of words.
Those tiles came all the way up to the balcony. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. So sometimes
I don't sit in the balcony, but I imagine that's where they went.
Mark is house seats only, Henny.
A little bit.
Mark is so I'm only seeing Hamilton if I am in row H of the orchestra.
Well, I was there on Tuesday night. I was in row O on the aisle, but it was fine.
Well, sometimes we make do and we, take one for the team.
We took one for the team.
Yes. Sometimes Mark will sit behind row K if he absolutely has to, if he's being really supportive. Otherwise, why would he go? But so sometimes the more simple things for me are the most effective. So, with Phantom, one of my favorite stage pictures in that show is the Angel of Music number, because there's nothing really exceptional stagecraft happening. It's just the ballet class happening in the background with the drape in front of it, and it's just this beautiful image, and it's so simple. Matilda, when the show begins and the tiles rise on the swings into the rafters while the weird music plays, it's just a tiny moment where I'm like, they're not doing anything that's brand spanking new, but just sort of how it all kind of congeals was a really wonderful effect for me. Which brings me to my point and my question, because this is a long winding road, long country road, is sometimes I wonder if being too inventive, if being too clever, if having too many tricks up your sleeve can be detrimental to a show. If showing that you can do a bunch of stuff in the moment can both be impressive in the moment, but then detrimental afterwards, because the point of the scene might have gotten lost in the creativity of everything happening around it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's what that's ideally the director's eye to say that's too much. I mean,
yeah.
To go back to Hamilton, that there was a reflective pool in the center of the stage at the public that they used for one performance, and everyone's like, it's just too much, that like we don't need this other thing to happen at the end of the show. So I do think a lot of times you spend money on things, or a great wig, or a huge costume change, and then you look at it as a director and you go, well, this is taking us away from the story, and it's got to go. Doesn't matter how much money we spent on it. Because I'm not a scholar of Matilda, I can't tell you like, oh, there's a couple of moments where this was too much for the show. I found that in general, I was thinking that it added to the material for the most part. I don't know if there's a moment that sticks out at you where it's like, this was too much. Is there something that you feel like they didn't need to swing into the audience?
I did like the way they swung to the audience. I mean, it's more sort of just, again, it comes from the fact that my introduction to the show was the album, so I heard it on a more intimate level. I was never the biggest fan of the staging of Miracle. I thought it was a little over choreographed, which is something that I actually have an issue with a lot of Broadway shows. While I do very much enjoy Hamilton, I also think it's still a little over choreographed. There are numbers where I would like it. The number I always bring up to everyone is I would prefer It's Quiet Uptown to just be Alexander and Eliza. I think it'd be really powerful to have just be them, and they are at the center of the stage, but I don't need the ensemble becoming trees on the turntable. For me, that does not have the impact that it has for other people, but that's a personal taste situation. So it's the same thing with Miracle, where it's like I almost would prefer it to be a kind of mural, like a still portrait where the kids kind of come to life on their solos rather than popping up from the table and bending over and doing the jerky stuff. You a director,
Matt?
Some have said I'm a director. I go into Broadway shows and I tell people how I would direct it. No, the last thing I ever directed was Carousel at college, but it was such a shitty experience. Sorry. It was such a terrible experience because Emerson is not very good about supporting student productions, that even though the show turned out really well, it was like food poisoning, and I said I wouldn't do it. But I've been interested in doing it again. I've been directing my friends with their self-tapes lately, and a friend just got a call back for Little Shop of Horrors due to my direction. So maybe I should get back in the game, Mark. If you're ever hiring freelance directors for the workshop, I will AD until I prove myself.
Oh, I might very well be, actually. We'll have we're gonna have a meeting off
right.
Revolting children living in revolting times. We sing revolting songs, using revolting knives. We'll be revolting children till our revolting's done, and we'll have a choice for revolting. We're revolting.
But in case you're feeling too bad about yourself, from the episode I listened with Erica Henningsen, and I think it was also Andrew Feldman, he loves all the Bravo shows, so don't feel too bad about yourself because he likes those shows. So it's not as if he's standing on high. He's not on Mount Olympus.
No, I'm a garbage person. Not only do I love all the Bravo shows, I also listen to like hours of podcasts about the Bravo shows I watch. So I'm like double garbage. Like I'm sleep at the dump, and then I wake up and I go right back to bed at the dump. And then like in between, I watch a true crime story. Like if you're not Murdered or a Housewife, it's shocking I have any time to see Broadway. Matt, don't die on me.
I'm not. If you're not Murdered or a Housewife, that might be. I want to put that on a t-shirt.
You should.
Which,
if anyone cared, we could start making merch from this episode.
Absolutely, we could start making merch from this episode. Murdered or housewife. I am garbage. I sleep at the dump.
I am funny.
I find you very funny. I've enjoyed today. At this point, I don't care what the episode comes out as. I've enjoyed speaking with you.
It's excellent. This episode is excellent, is what you might be searching for.
Well, the good news is that it's going to be shorter than Evita, so hopefully you can make it through more than half an hour of this episode.
Ooh, burn.
It's fine. My dad texts me all the time. He goes, "Your episodes are too long," and I'm like,
I think your episodes don't exist, Dad.
Well, he has one episode. I had him come on.
I saw him. He was on your podcast. You were talking about something that I was
Follies.
like, what show?
Follies.
Oh yeah, I was like, I would do the Follies episode. I was just looking at all the episodes that I'm equipped to talk about.
Sure. Well, how about this, Mark? Because you've been such a good sport today, I am finalizing what the next series is going to be on.
Okay.
And then I'm figuring out the list for it as well.
And you will get the list in advance, and I'll
100%.
Say, I'll do Gypsy.
Sondheim's already been done, Gur.
All right, well,
don't worry, you're gonna get a great one.
Gypsy to me doesn't feel like a Sondheim show, but I know it
Sure,
is.
sure, but it was about his career from start to finish, you know.
I know.
And, well, listen, if the Square One happens, that'll be you.
That'll be great. All right, let's get back to Matilda. We have to get.
Sorry, I'm sorry, guys. He has a heart out. He's done with me already. So Matilda.
Get me until 6:20.
Matilda. You said you like When I Grow Up, which I also appreciate. I love Naughty. I think Naughty is a wonderful song. I love the agency behind it. I love the idea of seizing your circumstances and creating new circumstances from them. But also it's not overly precious. I never find the show to be precious, and I think maybe that's why I like it so much. It is dense. I hear you on that. Like, I don't love School Song. I find it very clever. I don't like listening to it all that much. Like, it's a very interesting concept, and in that sense, like, the whole idea of the alphabet being the lyrics are done really well. Do I enjoy listening to it? Not so much. I also don't technically enjoy listening to Loud, but I get the existence of Loud. It is 2 minutes too long. I hear you. I see you. You're not entirely wrong. But I do think that there are some songs that just are so perfectly realized, like My House, like Naughty, like When I Grow Up, that I'm also like, and also I love Quiet. I think Quiet is fantastic. And I will stand any score that has a song like Quiet and My House in it. Because we talked about this before, I don't love scores where it's like, I'm hurting and you're hurting and you said this on Tuesday the 12th and we're standing in my living room and it's 72 degrees outside.
Now, can we talk about Quiet for 1 second though?
Of course we can.
I think it really sits beautifully in the musical, but it never opens up. The entire song feels to me like the beginning, and it never gets to a part. I mean, it does for like a hot second, but it never like soars musically to me. And when kids use it, obviously I coach a lot of kids. I see a lot of kids audition. It does not work as an audition song.
Nope, it does not.
If you're listening to this and you're a child, first of all, stop immediately. And second,
I weirdly actually have some kids who listen to this. Like, I've had a 13-year-old be like, I love your podcast. I'm like, do your parents know you listen to this?
No, it's fine. You're fine.
I'm teaching the children. It's fine.
You're teaching them. Anyway, it doesn't work as an audition song because it does not elevate the performer. It is so internal to what is going on in Matilda. It's like an essay on writing a song for this character, and I think it works in that context, but does not work out of it. And it's not a song I want to listen to.
But that is the difference between a Lacusa Wild Party and a Lippa Wild Party. One is for auditions, one works as a show.
These answers that come into my mind unbidden, these stories delivered to me fully written, and when everyone shouts like they seem to like shouting, the noise in my head is incredibly loud, and I just wish they'd stop. My dad and my mum and the telly and stories would stop for just once, and I'm sorry I'm not quite explaining it right, but this noise becomes anger and the anger is light, and this burning inside me would usually fade, but it isn't today, and the heat and the shouting, and my heart is pounding, and my eyes are burning, and suddenly everything is quiet.
Quiet, I like because it doesn't have that giant build. It is literally a song about finding tranquility and peace. It's literally like a meditation song. It's about cognitive disassociation, sort of mentally separating yourself from your surroundings so you can sort of just be. And Matilda lives in a world where there's a lot going on. We have songs like Telly and Loud and, you know, the school song, where all these like dense moments. And Matilda, in order to properly think and center herself, Matilda has to sort of shut it all out. And that's also the song that gets her to the level where she can have that telekinesis. Because, and again, I don't want to be like, you should read the book. Like, the show should make sense on its own. You shouldn't have to read the book for things to make sense. I absolutely understand that. What I'm saying is that, having reread the book for this podcast, because I am a seasoned podcaster, so I do more research than my guests so that I can talk a lot. When Matilda talks about how she feels when she's in that state, she's like, I don't feel upset. I don't feel hurt. I'm not tired. I'm not like in pain. She's like, it's a beautiful moment. She's like, I feel like I've reached the stars. She's like, everything just feels lovely. And Quiet is sort of touching on that, but there's a sadness about it that, even though I don't think it's a sad song, it does bring a tear to my eye if the kid does a good job. And I sent you a link to a girl from England who does a really good job. I don't know if you watched it. She does it for like an event.
I didn't see it, but I do distinctly remember seeing that show in an early preview, and I was sitting in the front mez, opposite of where I normally like to sit.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's a good show to see in the mez.
It actually was gorgeous. And that song started, and I remember leaning forward and my jaw was open. Like, I do physically remember seeing Sophia as the first Matilda I saw. And I was like, this girl is remarkable. What is happening here is remarkable, because as someone who works with kids, for someone to be that simple and just rely on lyrics and not feel like they need to push and not feel like they need to perform. And with Brooklyn, who was just on my podcast, we talked about, you know, a girl can play Annie and be loud and cute and the audience goes crazy for her. But Matilda has to be so in it, and there has to be so much going on, not only in her head, but in her spirit. And if not every kid is up to that acting challenge. So it really, watching that number, I'd never seen a kid do anything that introspective, you know, like, and I think that changes the game a little bit of what is possible for young performers, in a similar way to Billy Elliot. I mean, in such a British way. I mean, it just, it makes so much sense. Well,
we are talking about British theater. I would so you said Quiet, not a good audition song. Totally agree. I actually think it's a great teaching song. Like, I think that's a great song to have kids work on just like as a performer, because as you said, it requires complete stillness and just total simplicity and being dropped in, which is something I did not learn how to do as an actor until I got to college. And even then, still working on it.
Well, because their music, they don't, certainly for your type or my type or a lot of kids, it's about being big. It's about being funny. It's about taking space, and it's not about being simple. We're not having Bridges of Madison County moments.
I don't get to ever be Stephen Pasquale, and you know what? It's fine. I'll be Kelly O'Hara on the Wednesday matinee if you'll let me.
She doesn't call out. Go ahead.
Dare you? She did that one time.
I think she was out one night.
Kelly O'Hara famously calls out like once a year, and
it's like to do a concert somewhere else where they're paying her like $200,000.
100%. Quiet is one of those Sondheim-esque songs where it's like, it works so well in the show because the show has so much going on, and it's this moment that you desperately need, and that's why it sort of makes an impact in the show. But it doesn't, none of that stuff that's building up to it, that song as a puzzle piece in this giant puzzle of Matilda, where it fits so well. When you take away the rest of the puzzle, that piece doesn't seem so special, but it fits in the puzzle. And again, for your Matilda, so we were saying earlier, like, Matilda can sometimes feel like she's not the star of her own story in that show. But I think in a weird way, if your Matilda is off, even if everything else is fitting, if your Matilda is off, something about the evening doesn't work.
But wouldn't you say that about every single star of every musical?
I think you could have a really
terrible Tracy Turnblad, the night is over.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you have a mediocre Tony, West Side Story can still be a really great night of theater. And in fact, a lot of West Side Stories have had mediocre Tonys.
I guess I think of that less of, because the show's not called Tony. So to me, like, you know, if you have a bad Annie, you have a bad show. If you have a bad Matilda, you have a bad show.
Well, I think if you have, I'm not even saying a bad Matilda. I'm saying like just sort of a okay Matilda. I think like it's the same thing with Oliver. So you brought up Oliver actually earlier in terms of like the show opening and there he is. the stage show, it's not really that. I mean, they updated it. They add the whole, his mom coming at the factory
pregnancy,
gates.
but
Yeah,
it's still
sanctuary.
I remember someone recently was like, I saw a production of where am I? I saw a production of Oliver, and it was so groundbreaking. The mother of Oliver walked across the stage, and then she gave birth. I'm like, that's like in the script from 1966. So just chill.
94.
No, it's in the original script.
Are you sure?
I can pull it out from behind.
Pull her out
as well.
because I was reading the libretto for that episode.
You just keep talking.
Keep talking. I was reading the libretto for the Broadway production for this podcast, and it opened with Food Glorious Food, with the workhouse. And then they were saying in my research for it that the whole reason the Sam Mendes revival was so like revolutionary was because it opened with Oliver's mother. Show me the front of it.
This is my script from when I played the Artful Dodger in 1990 something. This is book 1977.
Okay.
Book and music lyrics 1960. It's still the TAM script.
Mark is so happy right now. I've never seen him smile this big in the hour and a half that I've known him.
No, I know. But wait. Maybe you're right. Oh my God. Did I just prove myself very wrong in this and all? Oh, can you please edit this out?
No, not one bit. This is staying in.
Wait,
I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
I think you're right.
It is.
So
I'm telling you,
wild.
it happened in 94.
I think you might be right. And this is really shocking to me.
Yeah. But that's the thing. But so in your defense, Mark, when your friend said it's so groundbreaking, 94 is also a while away. That's 37 years ago. Not 37, it's 27 years ago. What am I saying? I don't know math. 27 years ago.
Obviously.
So it's been that way for almost 3 decades.
I don't believe this.
This actually goes to my point with Matilda. As I've been making these points throughout the series, I've said before, a lot of these British musicals tend to go more for emotions and for the overall effect of theatrical storytelling than for the intricacies of plot and logic and character development. And some of those shows work very well. Les Mis, I would not say has the most character development because its main focus is telling a 30-year long story in the course of 3.5 hours. So it's just one big sweeping epic. Evita is, snapshots of a woman's life told through a misogynistic lens, but hey, she belts really high and she's, a see you next Tuesday to everybody and she looks beautiful. So we're like, yes, girl, work. It's Dynasty meets Annie.
I heard you say that. That was very funny.
Thank you very much. I don't think I said Annie. I think I said something else, but yeah,
Dynasty meets something. And I was like, that's exactly right.
100%. She's Joan Collins and it's why we love her. Matilda, I would argue, is actually much more interested in the intricacies of all of this, in the details, and sort of the depth of intelligence. And because of that, it can also sort of be a little distancing to people because it's not trying to sweep you up in the emotions of everything. It's more about what isn't being said than what's being said. And on top of all of this, Matilda does use a lot of history of British theater. As I said, pantomime, music hall, things like that, which we see in shows like Oliver and Les Mis, with the Thénardiers in Les Mis, with Bumble and Widow Corney. We see these villains that are almost grotesque and larger than life, that are truly cruel to these children, but are played for laughs because they're so monstrous and seem sort of like from another world. And then we have these children that aren't even really the stars of their own stories. Oliver is not really the star of Oliver. I would say it's Fagin, then Nancy, and then Dodger. Those are like the most important, most interesting characters. And those are always the roles that get nominated for stuff, right? Like Fagin and Dodger get nominated in any production, or, in the movie version, Nancy gets nominated in most stage versions. Oliver doesn't sing. Where Is Love is the 5th song in Oliver. It's Food Glorious Food. Then it's Oliver, I Shall Scream. 6th song, Boy for Sale, That's Your Funeral. Then Where Is Love? And until then,
the show's also 12 hours long.
It's long, but they make it a point to not have Oliver be the star. He is just sort of the linchpin that all these other characters are connected to. In the way that, so like Marcia Norman talked about this when she wrote the book for Color Purple. She said, to figure out what got cut, I wanted it to always be from Celia's perspective, and all characters are introduced in the show from when Celia meets them onwards. I'm like, that's very smart for a novel that takes place over like 40 years, blah, blah, blah. Very smart. They kind of do the same thing with Oliver, except they don't have Oliver say or do nearly as much as Celia does. So it's like, what if we had the same logic, but then Oliver's just mostly mute? So the characters come in and like they get to do their things, and it's sort of like a slideshow of acts. And Matilda is kind of similar, but she's a little more active, I would say. That's the only connection I wanted to make. I don't have a point about Matilda in regards to this, just in regards to
I'm just still
these
really
shows.
blown away by this thought that I was sure was in the script. That must be in. I played Dodger a lot of times, so it's definitely in a script of a version of Oliver I did.
Yeah,
and it must have been after that 90. What was that? 92?
94, I think. 94 in London, or 93, 94, something like that.
Yeah.
It was Jonathan Pryce.
It's just not in this first one that I
Yeah.
have here.
That's
I'm
fine.
fired.
We love being right.
I hate being wrong.
Girl, me too. I have
Okay, what's next?
I have one last thing to say, which is just one of my favorite moments in the entire show. It warms my heart every time. Is when Miss Honey, she realizes how talented and gifted Matilda is, and no one will listen to her. And she pulls Matilda aside and she says, I'm going to bring you books, and you'll read and you'll learn, and you'll sort of sit quietly in the corner since no one else will let me do anything with you. And if you have any questions, I'll answer them as best as I can. How does that sound? And there's a pause, and then Matilda just hugs her. And in a show that is very verbal, that is very intelligent and very, dense, it's moments like that where I'm like, that's perfect. That's a unique moment. That's not in the movie. That's not in the book. That's just a unique moment from the show that is, in my opinion, like just chef's kiss, where the fact that they don't underline it so heavily, it's just a very human, intimate moment, as opposed to Blood Brothers, where every time anything happens, it's like, did you catch that?
Yes,
Everybody just catch that?
You're 100% correct. And even the simplicity of the end of the show where she says, let her stay with me. I'll take care of her. And the dad's like, no, you're not keeping my daughter.
Yeah.
And he says daughter. And then Matilda has that moment. And then that makes me like well up a little bit, because it's this, we have that nice little bit of closure before he's going to leave his kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually one other thing I wanted to bring to the surface about the problem with the material, which is not the musical, it's the source material. It's really hard to watch people be mean to a kid.
Yeah.
And the way Miss Hannigan is mean to Annie is humorous to me, but because it's not her parents, right?
Yeah.
But then, and it's also very cartoony in that way, but to watch sort of the mother and the father and the brother, the entire house hate her.
Yeah.
This little tiny nothing kid that looks like a strong wind will knock her over. It's really hard to watch as an audience member, and I don't love feeling that way. And partly because I've spent my whole life like celebrating young people and giving them a spotlight to stand in, and in so many ways it's hard to watch that in a little bit. It makes me feel bad. I don't like for kids to ever feel that way.
I hear you. I will also say, and this connects back to just because the Noises Off episode came out literally yesterday, and we talked about this with Dorothy Loudon. What made Dorothy Loudon's Hannigan so
I was like, Dorothy Loudon was on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
wow.
I'm that good. I'm that good. I'm that seasoned. I'm
like
that
a
good.
skeleton dug up.
I got
you're
Whoopi
covered
Goldberg.
in dirt. And, okay, forget it.
We're getting morbid.
We're getting loopy.
No. So because she was in Noises Off, and we brought up her Hannigan, and Adam was very close with Gary Beach before he passed. So he got to work with Dorothy for a bit in the show, and part of the thing that made her Hannigan so great was her hatred of the kids, and her meanness to them wasn't out of spite or just like I get off on it, but like a genuine fear that if she doesn't dominate these kids, they will get her in her sleep. Which is hysterical because she's 3 times the size of these children. So the fact that she'll tell Molly, who goes up to her knee, your days are numbered, with the conviction of like, don't you dare come at me with a knife. Whereas the audience is like, that's never going to happen. But she's just so convinced of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to Trunchbull, at least with the way that Bertie Carvel played the role, in the sense of Trunchbull's dominance of the kids is not, but yes, she hates children and she has a lot of funny lines. She's like, thank goodness I never was one. But also a genuine belief that these children will revolt against her, which they do, but that's because of the way she treats them, not because they're children. Like, children aren't sitting around going, how are we going to stage a coup against the adults? Like, they're too busy being children. But she's convinced that they're plotting all the time. And that paranoia does not justify her evil, but at least it's not just pure cruelty. It's not that she gets off on it, whereas Matilda's parents, it's like there's no rhyme or reason, they just do it.
I also think with Trunchbull, it's because it's so ridiculously looking. This woman who's 6 foot with a hump on her back and the longest legs, it's comical because physically it's funny. Like, we're watching like an upside down person. It just feels wrong. And so it doesn't feel like, well, this isn't a real thing, or this is also a man in drag, but not really. And Bertie Carvel's performance is truly remarkable. And I don't know if you've seen him do other things, but he's on a TV show called Dr. Foster on Netflix, which is like a great crazy male performance. And of course I've heard him on the Parade album, and he's wildly talented to be able to do so many different things. Of course, Broadway didn't really embrace him, so I don't know if he'll be back anytime.
Well, so what a perfect way to get into the final part of this section. He has 2 lines that I just want to say that I really love, which is when it says, when we first meet Trunchbull and the name Matilda comes up, and she's convinced that Matilda planted a stink bomb under her chair. And Miss Honey says that she's very gifted. Nonsense. Haven't I just told you she is a gangster? I just think that's funny. And then, that makes me so happy. It gives me a warm glow in my lower intestine. And that he's just a child. He'll be sick. He should have thought of that before he made a pact with Satan and decided to steal my cake. I just think that's hysterical. The show opens. It gets incredible reviews, like reviews that a lot of new musicals don't usually get. And audience responses are exceptionally divisive. Audiences basically are like, this is not the show I was promised. I was told this was brilliant. I told this was a family show. It's dark. It's weird. I don't know what's happening. I can hardly understand the words. And I knew that Matilda had a rough road ahead of it because I was working at Brooklyn Diner at the time, and we would get a lot of pre-theater crowds or post-theater crowds. And I got a lot of grandparents who came with their kids, and the kids tended to like Matilda, but the grandparents were like, ugh, I don't know what that was. I'm not telling anyone to see it. And I would ask the kids, did you like it? Yeah, I did. But like, parents don't listen to kids how they thought. They listened to the other parents who said, I don't know about this show. So I was like, this show's got a rough road ahead of it. They were nominated for 12 Tony Awards, including Best Musical. They won 4, including Book, but not Musical. They lost to Kinky Boots. We both kind of disagree with that. Do you remember the other 2 that were nominated that year?
Oh God, no. Wait,
You'll
maybe.
shoot your eye out.
Okay, so Christmas Story wasn't going to win anything.
Nope. And then let's see if you can see what this one is.
Okay. Is that Lysistrata Jones? What is it?
No, but right.
Was it Bring It On?
Yeah, Bring It On.
Bring It On should have won every award there was.
Okay, that's a take. The only time I fell out of my seat when I saw Bring It On was Kate Rockwell going up the octave at the beginning, and she goes, biatch. My friend Mike and I just fell out of our seats.
Was Motown that year too? Yeah.
Was it? No, Motown was.
It had to have been that year because that's what went into the Lunt after Christmas Story, wasn't it? And then Ariana DeBose that year was in the ensemble of Motown and in the ensemble of Bring It On at the Tonys.
Yeah. Then I guess that's it.
But I don't think they were nominated for Best Musical. So
no, Motown definitely was not. They were nominated for some performing awards and maybe like orchestrations or something. But yeah, they performed on the Tonys because they had the money to perform on the Tonys. So those were the nominees. Way to go. The Matildas were given a special Tony Award because there were 4 of them. And after the controversy of 3 Billies winning Best Actor, Billy Elliot, the Tonys were like, let's just avoid that and give them a special Tony. So cleared the way for Patina to get her Tony. The show had a very unsuccessful national tour. It ran for over 1,500 performances in America, which is a very good run. It made its money back, but considering that it's still running on the West End, not nearly the hit they thought it would be. But it's very similar to Evita. Like Evita ran for almost 4,000 performances in the UK, ran here for like the same number of performances as Matilda. Similar aesthetic. As I mentioned, they are currently working on a movie version. Emma Thompson is playing Miss Trunchbull, which I'm very excited to see. Have you seen Cruella?
I have not seen Cruella.
There are two reasons to see Cruella, and I'm a huge Emma Stone fan, but she's not one of the two. It's the costumes, and it's Emma Thompson, who I will say deserves an Oscar nomination.
All right.
She is brilliant.
The
I
chances
look
of
forward
me
to it.
seeing Cruella are like very slim.
Do you have Disney Plus?
Yeah.
I recommend having a nice bottle of wine
And yet
watching
here
it.
I am not watching Matilda.
Listen, I have lovely movie nights. Listeners know if you follow me on Instagram, sometimes when I'm home alone, every 2 weeks, I drink through a bottle of wine and do a drunk movie night on my Instagram story. And I don't pretend to be famous. I don't pretend to be liked. But the only time my Instagram story gets hundreds of views is when I do the drunk movie night. So all of you are enabling a soon-to-be alcoholic. All right, Mark, we're wrapping things up because you got to go. Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Speed racer questions.
Quick
Here we
fire
go.
questions. Go ahead.
Speed racer questions. Here we go.
Okay.
Far too many notes for my taste. If you had to cut one song for Matilda, and for you it's just one, what would it be?
I'm cutting The Smell of Rebellion.
Okay. I'm cutting all of Blood Brothers just to screw with you. So no,
I
I would
love
cut
all of Blood Brothers. I just had a very good experience.
I know what you mean.
Quick fire.
Yes. I dreamed a dream cast. Who would you like to see in this show?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd love to see my girl Erica Henningsen play Miss Honey. I think she would be just gorgeous in that part.
Did you see Jill Pace do it when she replaced?
I did see. I saw all of it. I saw Jill. I saw who was the last one? She was so good.
Is it Allison?
Allison Luft was
Yeah.
great. I saw all three of them, and
Because I didn't see the last replacements. I saw my final time was with Jill Pace as Miss Honey, and I was like, "Oh, you're gorgeous in this
She
role."
was great.
She was great.
I always wanted Aileen Quinn, who played Annie in the Annie movie, is a really good friend of mine, and I wanted her to come back to Broadway as Miss Honey, but it didn't happen. Anyway, and as like God, I wish I could tell you a kid right now that I'm like, oh, this kid would be a great Matilda.
We'll discover one. Or we could do a fun one and do like adult kid casting as well. I mean, what I like about the adult casting as the ensemble of children is that it adds this element, which is in the book and in a lot of British stuff, where it's like, technically speaking, the difference of ages of like Matilda's character and the older kids in the school is like 5 years, but that might as well be 30 years because of the life experience that they have and the way that those like older kids treat little kids. Like a 9-year-old will treat a 5-year-old like they're their own child. Like, oh, you sweet little boo-boo child. It's like, it's 4-year difference, kid. So I like that idea.
The other thought I had was Miranda Hart as Trunchbull. I'd love to see that. Do you know
how do I know Miranda Hart?
She was Miss Hannigan in the West End, but she is Miranda is her. Is that her name? She has a sitcom. She's a British comedian.
I'd love to see.
She's like 11 feet tall, like legitimately.
I would love that. Or Catherine Tate. I would love to see Catherine Tate's take on Trunchbull. I don't know if you know Catherine Tate.
I can't say I do.
British comedian. If you ever watch The Office, she's the female boss that comes in.
I know she is. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Rainbow High Spectacle. Does the show need production value to work? You answered this earlier, but
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I would love to see this stripped down. That'll be on my bucket list one day when I direct again. Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no way, and 10 being now and forever. Where does this show rank personally for you?
6.
Great musical, wonderful, beautiful gowns. For me, I would say it's an 8.5. It was 9.5 before I started doing research. It went down a point, but still 8.5 is exceptional. Okay. Mark, this has been wonderful. We're wrapping things up now. Where can people find you if you want them to find you?
Well, if they're still listening,
Godspeed.
You're probably already following me. You can follow me on Instagram at Marc Tumminelli. You can follow the podcast at Little Me Podcast. Mm-hmm. You can also, no one cares what I say on Twitter, but at that Tumminelli on Twitter. And you can go to BroadwayWorkshop.com, get on the mailing list there. You can follow Broadway Workshop at BroadwayWorkshop.com, or at Broadway Workshop. I don't know, all the things I do.
Or I will soon be working and then taking over within the span of 6 months.
I'm honestly looking for someone to take over.
Okay. Well, let's figure it out.
You're ready for it.
I'm ready for anything, honestly. So if you like the podcast, you can rate, review, subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at Matt Koplik, usual spelling. If you want to see any of my drunk movie nights, that's a wonderful sight to behold, I've been told. Join us next week as we get to the final episode, as we discuss the royal musical Six, which has just started performances again on the day that we are recording this, but will have officially opened by the time the episode comes out. I will also be announcing what the new series is going to be for the podcast, and I will do my personal rankings of the shows that we have covered on this series. Thank you so much. We usually close out with a big, nice Broadway diva. We've closed out with Lauren Ward in the past, but because you know her, because she has wonderful taste, and because we brought her up a few times, we're going to close out with Miss Erica Henningsen as our Broadway diva today. How's that sound?
I love it.
Yay! Thank you so much for listening, guys, and join us next week. Take us away, Erica. Bye!